We need to talk about the time a perfectly ordinary word became iconic, terroristic, violent, toxic, problematic, gaslighted, and had an existential crisis during a mostly peaceful outbreak of verbal apocalypses. No, wait. That sentence may actually be the problem, which is a very dramatic way of saying sometimes words get stretched until they stop meaning what we think they mean. And the best way to see that may be to start with something simple. A muffin. A man walks into a bakery, which sounds like the beginning of a joke. Fair enough. He walks up to the counter and says, "I'd like a blueberry muffin." The cashier freezes. "A blueberry muffin?" "Yes, that's problematic. It's breakfast." Another customer turns around. "Actually, that's violence." "Against who?" The man looks at the muffin. Another person says, "Why are you defending muffins?" Someone near the door says, "This is clearly gaslighting." The man says, "I haven't said anything except muffin." A person at a side table says, "That's exactly what a psyop would say." Someone by the napkins says, "It's an attack on everything we stand for." And then someone else whispers, "Honestly, this whole thing is kind of iconic." And within 30 seconds, no one is talking about the muffin anymore. The muffin is still there. It has not moved. It has not issued a statement. It has not declared war. But the conversation has left the bakery. That's the strange thing about charged words. They can be useful. Sometimes they're exactly the right tool. Some things really are crises. Some things really are dangerous. Some things really are manipulative, harmful, traumatic, or catastrophic. The problem is not using strong words for serious things. The problem is stretching those words until they stop carrying meaning and start carrying emotion. And once that happens, we're not really discussing the thing anymore. We are reacting to the label. Instead of asking what happened, we ask, whose side am I supposed to be on? Instead of asking, what does that mean here? We act like the case has already been decided by the word that was used, because some words do not ask a question. They announce a verdict, and verdict words are powerful. That's why people use them. Welcome to the Word Inflation Bureau. A file comes across the desk. Incident report. Customer mildly disappointed by muffin temperature. Observation. Concern. Problem. Crisis. Emergency. Existential threat. Literally violence. And then the clerk leans back and says, "Perfect. Now people will take it seriously." And that's part of the problem. Attention rewards inflation. A concern sounds small. A crisis sounds urgent. An emergency sounds impossible to ignore. And an existential emergency sounds like nobody should ask questions until after they click, share, react, repost, and choose a team. But if every problem is a crisis, eventually crisis stops helping us tell one problem from another. And if every disagreement becomes violence, every discomfort becomes trauma, every mistake becomes gaslighting, every confusing situation becomes a psyop, and then every ordinary thing becomes iconic, then we may still have words, but we have fewer tools. Now, I should admit something. I'm not innocent when it comes to misusing tools. In my garage, I have screwdrivers that have lived tragic, double lives. They have been chisels. They have been pry bars. They have opened paint cans. They have been hole punches. They have done jobs that no screwdriver should have been asked to do, mostly because the correct tool was somewhere else. And sometimes it works, sort of. But eventually, the tip is bent, the handle is cracked, and the screwdriver isn't very good at being a screwdriver anymore. Words work that way too. A word can do extra work once in a while. A little exaggeration can be funny. A strong phrase can make a point. But if we use the same few charged words for every situation, those words get bent out of shape. They do not become stronger. They become less precise, less useful, less trusted. They stop pointing to meaning and start pointing to mood. And mood is not the same as meaning. A louder word can make the sentence feel more true without making it more accurate. So the cure is not weaker words. The cure is better questions. What does that word mean here? What actually happened? What is being claimed? Who was harmed? How serious is it? What would still be true if the charged word were removed? Because sometimes the word is accurate. Sometimes it's doing useful work. And sometimes it has been stretched too far. And sometimes it's just trying to make the muffin sound like a national emergency. Picture a balloon labeled meaning. And every time a charged word gets stretched beyond its job, the balloon gets another puff of air. Crisis. Toxic. Violence. Gaslighting. Existential. Iconic. Psyop. Eventually, and now we need a word for what happened to the word. So here's an ounce. Words are tools. Used carefully, they help us understand each other. Stretched too far, they stop carrying meaning and start getting in the way. And that's it. An ounce. Submitted for your consideration.